Good evening, everyone. How are you doing this evening? It's Monday here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's 8:30 p.m. and we are Tamar International, a gift of love, divinely inspired, meeting the needs of widows and widowers everywhere. And who am I? I am your host, Shirley Mitchell Berman, one of the overseers of Tamar International. And if you were with us last week, we had a very interesting question. And, every week, all our questions are important and very, very interesting. Just that last week one was one of those where you are, kind of engaged very early after the passing of your spouse. So it kind of like really had the discussion going. However, I must say welcome to each and every one of you who are on with us via the YouTube this evening. We welcome you. A special, special welcome goes out to you. Can we say, let me just bring in my team member and we will just get it rolling. So as my team member joins, welcome Minister Lauren. Good evening to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
And of course, we have to, because yesterday was Mother's Day, we still have to shout out all our mothers on the platform this evening. Happy, happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Month. They tend to say we are biased by the fact that we go all out for mothers. But the truth is, we all go all out for our fathers too as well. But just that we tend to elaborate now as women. Men put on a suit, women put on makeup, hairpiece, eyelashes, nails. So we elaborate to go. Come on. All right, enough of that said. So, welcome everyone. To those of you who will connect with the replay, it's always a joy that you can also connect with it on your time. And again, we want to encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Please like us on Facebook, please follow us on Instagram. Somebody asked me this weekend going, so do we have a TikTok account? And I said, no, I don't know if you can handle that. So if you feel like you can handle, managing our TikTok account, well, welcome. We are always open to have you come on board as a volunteer with us. Again, everyone, it's Monday evening. It's our Q&A segment. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, we have a question that we did not reach to last week. So we are going to attempt this evening to answer that question. But before I go to that, I just want to encourage you again as well. As you are aware, 3 weeks now in counting, Tamar had a baby, and she's called Women in Waiting. A little bit on one-sided in terms of gender, but we are having women come in every Sunday evening and share their journey, testimony, or experience of waiting. And so you have a testimony, you have an experience, you have a story about waiting, something that you waited on God for, and you believe that this is the time for you to share it. Well, we'll be happy to. Of course, you can contact us on 791-2358. For those of you internationally, 868-791-2358. 791-2358. Listen to me. There are people who want to tell their stories, but where they are, they can't tell it. The position they're in, they can't tell it. But if you know that you have something that can impact another life, that it could encourage another lady, well, I tell you, we are ready to hear it. And something interesting as well. Even if you don't want to come on board, what you will say, in person, you can also write us at womeninwaiting23@gmail.com or tamar.international@gmail.com. Let me welcome Pastor Karen as well. Pastor Karen, welcome. Good evening. Let's get this thing set up good.
Good evening.
Great to have you on, and happy Mother's Day to you.
Oh, same to you. Same to everyone. Lorraine, happy Mother's Day as well.
Thank you.
Same to you.
I was supposed to tell you, ladies, make sure and get all your wine glasses in, but I don't know what to say if it's a senior moment, but nevertheless. All right, so let me put up the question. Those of you online, good evening, and welcome. We are happy to have you. If you are not here, then it makes it a little harder, but you make it easier for us to interact. Please feel free to share your comment. Pastor Karen or Minister Lauren, any one of you will want to go ahead first in seeking to address the question. It is, how can you help someone going through grief without you becoming very emotional? How can you help someone going through grief without you too becoming very emotional? Any one of you want to go first? I
Okay,
don't. Yeah, go ahead, Pastor Karen. Let me put you in
all
position.
right. The thing is, for me, it has been a longer period of time because it's 20 years for me. So dealing with someone with grief is a lot easier for me because I've been there. It wasn't easy in the earlies because every time you start to speak, memories would come and then you would tend to want to get all caught up in what you are feeling, trying to help someone. And that is what I basically went through when I first started this journey, my grief journey, I call it. And it was really difficult for me at that time. But after a while, the pain becomes less intense. And as you go on, it really gets a lot easier. So you reach that point where your experiences can actually make a difference in someone else's life without you having to get all wrapped up in it. And this comes with time. It's not going to happen overnight. It does come with time because pain, it does get easier. The impact really lifts. And you reach that point where whenever you have to deal with anyone, it really isn't a problem. And it's actually a blessing because now you're in the best position to be there for someone who's going through the same thing. And you actually, your life can actually show them that, look, I made it through. Because I made it through now, I can tell you that you can make it through as well. That it does get a lot easier and a lot bearable. So, as I said, it's easier for me because it has been a long time. So, dealing with this really isn't a problem for me at all. Dealing with somebody with intense grief, it actually helps because I've been there and I can actually be that blessing and that example and assurance to someone else that I have to deal with.
Thank you, Pastor Karen. So I figured this question was asked because it's probably still new for the person who is, on that journey of grief. And so being new to it, you still sense that, look, you don't want to cause the person to see, like if you don't want to be there
Yeah.
for them. So you're standing there with them, but you're wondering how much of
Uh,
a help.
Taking it from that point of view.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will tell someone like that, really, it's no easy way to deal with this when you have to deal with someone in your early grief. It's not easy. You are going to get emotional. You are going to get caught up. You understand? If I always tell someone, if you know you can't do it, then don't. Don't put yourself in a position like that. It's always better to tell someone, seek help from someone who can better able to get you through the process. If you yourself, you have to be honest with yourself. If you can't do it, then don't. I tell people that. If you know it's too difficult for you, don't put yourself there. There's no shame in telling someone, I'm not the right person for you to speak to at this point. So I can get someone to speak with you, get some sort of help. But me, myself, because I am now going through it or I have gone through it recently, it is difficult for me to be that person that you want me to be. The most I can do for you is listen and try to be a shoulder that you can rest on. But that is my advice. If you know you can't do it, there's no shame in asking for help or directing them to someone else who really can.
Very interesting. And even as you began to respond there, it came back to me. And I think most of us will be able to relate to this factor of, when you experience a death, especially when it's very close, and someone else, a friend or an associate or so, but they're close, and you decide you're going to the funeral. and you go to that funeral after your close relative died, and it's like the whole scenario all over again. So that thought just came to mind. So again, if you wise maybe to be wise and say, I don't think I should engage
Yeah.
in this at this point in time. But however, if you want to hold the person's hand going through it, I guess prepare yourself as well. But because it has to do with emotions, grief is has to do with emotions. Emotions will come out in it. But I was just given that comparison of when death occurs and you attend a funeral, and then 3 weeks later somebody else, somebody close, or so, again, as I said, a colleague dies, and you go and you attend that funeral, and it's like you're reliving the whole thing. There are people even who come on to this Q&A segment. Some may not make it on, they may listen, as we always will make highlight of the replay, because there is a memory trigger that may come from one of the questions or one of the comments, and could send them back in a whole swing, a whole spin. And so taking these questions and being empathetic is so very important. I mean, sometimes we have some serious sessions here where we can feel that sense of I don't want to say solemnness, but you can feel the you can feel it even though we're in different space. You all help me with the word now. Minister Lauren, help me with the word. Oh my gosh. Oh, you know that word that I mean? You can feel, I don't want to say tension, but it's like you can feel the emotion, you can feel what the person is going through.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is emotion.
Yeah.
Emotions, yeah.
You see, when I was reviewing, going over the question in my mind, if that person had spoken to me directly, I would have asked them what they consider to be very emotional or over emotional, because we are emotional beings, even without suffering grief ourselves. If we have that kind of empathy for somebody, we will react in some way. How we control it is different. But I mean, you would feel for that person. You somebody you know who went through something, whether or not we went through ourselves. There will be a measure of emotional connection, emotional reaction. We are emotional beings. So I was trying to figure out what they will consider very emotional. You in the early part of it, you mentioned that they may have no not too long experience with themselves. There's another side to it. I agree with everything that Pastor Karen is saying. They have an option of not letting the person know, listen, I mean, I really don't think I'm the right person to do this with you at this particular time. I mean, I feel for you, but, I may not be able to react the way you may want me to react, or help you in the way you think that I should help you, whatever. But there is another side to it, and I always like to put a twist to things. And I have realized in my own life that sometimes when I've been through something and I'm helping somebody else, healing comes to me. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why sometimes, even in the midst of my pain, in the midst of whatever I'm going through, if somebody reaches out to me for help in any way, I give it, because I know that I will inevitably, I will also experience some healing. I will experience some sort of release from it, because I'm not focusing on what I am feeling. Instead, I am allowing my emotions, I'm allowing myself to focus on somebody else's pain to try to help them. And that helps me. So there's another side to it. But you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're capable of. You have to know what works for you. Again, and Pastor Karen said, I always say, you need to be true to yourself. We deal with truths. We deal with truth, and the first truth is to yourself. You have to be honest about what you think that you can deal with at that particular time, if you will be able to effectively help that person, if you have what it takes to put aside what you are feeling, to focus on that person. And nobody is telling you not to feel how you feel, because you are experiencing something that you too have to process, you too have to go through, you too may need continual healing or whatever. you know. So you have to know who you are, you have to know if you are capable, and you have to be honest whether or not. Nobody can hold it against you, just be honest. Nobody can hold it against you because every one of us is not the same. You understand? There's three of us on this platform, and three of us can tell you different ways of dealing with the same thing because it's based on how we are. Or, yeah, yeah, you
That
know, our
different.
experience, our
Yes.
personality, you know, how we feel about certain things. And like I say, for me, I put aside how I feel because I believe with all my heart that my healing comes in helping others. My deliverance comes out of whatever situation by putting myself in place to help somebody else. And I also feel because God don't do things by chance. If somebody comes to me, I believe God send them. I have to do all that I can do to help them in spite of myself, in spite of my feeling, in spite of my grief, in spite of whatever I may be going through. You understand? And I think earlier in the one of these sessions, I spoke about a time when I was literally going through a real depressing time, tears in my eyes, and yet I will still somebody call somebody whatever. I will pray with them. I will do whatever I need to do because at the end of the day, we are placed on this earth to help the earth, sorry, to help others, and we have to try our best. But again, I am going to emphasize you are not me. So if you think that the better thing to do is to refer them to somebody else or let them know, listen, I'm not in that place right now, you do what is you know, you think that is right for you at that given time. Because if you are the kind of person that I know that God have us to be, at some point you will reach out to that person again and you will try to help them when you think you're in a better space.
Yeah.
That's
Here's what's coming to mind because I'm looking back at the question again. How can you help someone going through grief? How can you? So it gives me that understanding that there are more than one way. So it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to do it in a setting which will um, inspire or cause one to become very emotional, very sad. You can probably look at, say, let's go for a drive, or can we, let's go for ice cream, or, find out something that the person likes, an environment, a space, what can help them to be able to just unwind or just be themselves, even if it may bring some tears, but at least it may not cause you yourself to be,
Minister,
huh?
Minister Shirley, something simple as just sitting with somebody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It don't have to be you talking or whatever, it's just you being there. And we spoke about this in earlier sessions, just
Yeah.
being there. And we have to be mindful of that. It's not always when you want to help somebody do something, it has to be up to be talking and whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
Even
I was
if you're praying for them, you can pray in your
just
mind.
And just now, just a minute. I wasn't so much talking about the talking part, but I was talking about changing the environment, not
Right,
necessarily.
yes. Taking them away from that particular environment, putting them in a different space for a little while.
Like
Right.
that. Yeah, yeah. So
Understood.
I was thinking like that. So
Understood.
yeah, so it's like, it's not only about having someone sit in a chair and you're counseling them. So I tend to get like that kind of a thing coming from this question here. How can you help someone going through grief without you two becoming very emotional? So therefore I think what you may have to look at are some of your triggers and see, looking at how some of your triggers, maybe some things you will say, okay, I know I have to stay away from this if I am walking with this person through the journey of grief. Pastor Karen,
Mhm. I
I,
understand that. I'll tell you something. I remember because I love the fact that it is understood that we do have different ways of approaching this situation. And I told you, I think I mentioned this before. I remember someone calling me and was telling me about the loss of their son. And she told me, she said, people keep telling her how to be and how to feel and how not to feel, and even telling her the right things that she needed to hear. And she told me, she said, she called me, she said, I don't know why I called you, but I just needed to call you. And I said, no problem. And I listened to her and I told her, I said, there's nothing I can do to make you feel better. There's nothing I can do to change what happened to you. There's nothing I can do. The most I can do is just be quiet and just let you just talk. And she just went on and she cried and she went through her thing. And I felt what she felt because, you know, as is sometimes when you're going through this, you do want to cry with them because it's so emotional and it's so painful. You want to reach out, you want to just change everything for them. But I just stayed quiet. And when the whole conversation was finished, she said, Pastor Karen, thank you so much. And I said, why? She said, for not saying anything. She said
Hmm.
that was the best thing anyone could have done for me, just not saying anything. And I told her that I said, because I understood I was there. And I know what it is when you just don't want anybody to say anything. You just want to hurt. You want to cry. You want to release. Let me put it that way. You just want to release. And this is the best way sometimes. It's just not saying anything. And that is
Yeah.
the best thing you can do for people. But again, you have to understand the situation and you have to know who you're dealing with because everyone is different. Every approach is different. We go through the same thing, but not everyone you can approach the same way. You have to understand, and sometimes the leading of the Holy Spirit gives you that. You will get that nudge in your spirit that tells you, shut up, just listen. Or you get another nudge saying, speak, and he will tell you what to speak. And that is why we have to be so sensitive, especially as ministers, when we are dealing with people. It is important for us to be sensitive to know how to respond in a
Yeah.
situation like that, especially when we ourselves are in that place. We have to know how to shut up. And Minister Lorraine, you said something that was really profound for me because I remembered why I was in my room in a corner crying, really crying because I was missing my husband so badly. And someone called and they wanted counseling. And I had to just wipe my tears, put my pain aside, and I had to deal with them. And I dealt with them. I was very professional. I was very understanding. I did everything that they needed. And when I was finished, I felt a release. And I felt really good that I can actually be this way for this person, even though I was in the midst of my grief. And that is what a very good friend told me. He said, sometimes you just need to be there for someone else in order to deal with you. And it didn't always happen that way because sometimes I really couldn't function. But I knew I was true to myself and I knew the times when I could have just reached out and helped someone and put aside my grief. And there were other times when I really couldn't. I just had to just say, okay, I can't be this person for you. You understand? So I really understand what you're saying. And you are so right. We really have to be sensitive to what we are feeling at that point in order to be effective for
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor Karen. I was looking back because this evening, as I was meditating on the question as well, the words came into my head, the pattern of Jesus and how he dealt when he heard the death of John the Baptist, the death of Jairus' daughter, the death of Lazarus. And it was almost like if he continued doing some stuff. Not that he did not feel what they were feeling, because the Bible says he loved Martha, he loved Mary, he loved Lazarus, but he just held it all together, and then he went out there. He made a particular declaration that he's not dead, he's asleep, and this thing is for the glory of God and all of that. But I looked at Jesus's pattern of dealing with grief. I mean, and I think the one that was really hard was John the Baptist, that beheading, and how he even reacted to that. And he went aside for a little while and then he went and healed a multitude of people. And that again is because of our growth, our walk, our experience in Christ to be able to really stand in there with others, hold their hands, listen, allow them to just cry, allow them to just share their heart without judgment. But there also comes a time out of the emotion to be able to, say, all right, you got to move on from this place. But you will know and they will know. Yeah? Because sometimes you may get stuck in that place. But again, be patient. Be patient with yourself as well.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself because you're standing with the person. And so, Minister Lauren, be patient with
Yeah.
yourself. This thing is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing at all. So, y'all, we have a few more minutes. Any closing comments? I really thank all of you for who have been online listening. If you have any comments, to drop us a comment again in reference to the question, how can you help someone going through grief without you two becoming very emotional? Please do not trivialize someone's grief. Please avoid being insensitive. If you think that you have said something wrong, say sorry because sometimes we can really put our foot in our mouth. So, and you're not too big to say sorry, but I'm telling
I
you
always,
this.
I
Yeah.
always, I always say in a moment when you're not sure what to say, it's better you don't say anything.
Yeah, that's right.
It saves you from having to apologize after, because if you knew what to say, you would have told, you would have been it. But sometimes you're not even sure how to approach. It's better just be there.
Yeah.
Just be there. You understand? Or if you do say, just let them know that I'm here for you. Nothing else. Because sometimes you tell people who grieve in certain things and you get them angry on top of the grief because of the insensitive thing you might say or however it comes. So if you're not sure, it's better you just don't say anything. A hug goes a long way to a hug, a little hold hand, something to just say, listen. Sometimes we feel everything we have to speak and whatever, and sometimes we make things worse. So by the grace of God, with God's wisdom, we will do the right thing. That's the parent.
Exactly. I remember someone told my brother once, stop studying with Karen because she's strong and she can handle it. And you're always fussing over her. And I felt so hurt because I was in the middle of grief. And that is it. People always saw me as someone who was really super strong, who can deal with anything. So even though things come, no, don't fuss about her. She'll be able to handle it. And I think, and I blame myself for that too, because I've always been there for everyone. And now my grief, everybody assumed that I was able to handle it. And that person, when that person made that statement, that hurt me to the core. I was so hurt, so much so that I didn't even want to speak to that person. I never told them that I knew what they said because they didn't say it to me. But I
Right.
just didn't want to deal with them at all because I was so hurt. But because of that, agape love in you, that Christ love, and because of the type of person I am, I had to let it go and I had to deal with them. But I made a promise to myself that I would never view anybody. I don't care how strong you are. I will never view anybody in that space again because grief is a thing by itself.
True.
And there is nothing, I mean, nothing could compare to grief that you're going through. And you should always be sensitive and always understand it doesn't matter how you see a person. Always, always be sensitive to what a
Yeah.
person is going through, no matter what.
Thank you so much, Pastor Karen. Something, as you were both summing up there, the thought came to mind. This is not something per se where you have a checklist. Well, I did this, I did that, or follow these instructions. You really, really have got to rely upon. If you're a believer, God's Holy Spirit will lead you. He's the comforter, He's the counselor. And really, really, you can really connect with someone, be genuine, be real with that person. People know when you're real with them, people know when you're transparent with them. So
Yeah.
don't, sorry, we didn't give you it in like point from this, do that, do the other, because everyone is different. So you, as the person walking with someone, don't be too hard on yourself if you become a little bit emotional. You continue to find your healing as well as you continue to stand with the other person. If you think it is too much for you, there is always a place, there are always persons that you can refer to. And of course, you can reach out to us here at the organization, and we are always willing to make ourselves available to you. Yeah. So again, it's always our joy to be here, not because we are happy about what you have to experience, but that we can serve in this way. And so we really thank God for you allowing us into your space this evening and giving us this opportunity to share with you. Again, you are around people who have recently become bereaved in one way or the other. Um, just be that person God will want you to be for them. Again, it's not about words, but sometimes just your presence makes a whole difference. We love you and we thank God for you. And we pray that God will continue to give us the wisdom and the understanding, and also uh, the ability to do what we do. And you likewise, that even as you interact with those around you, you will become more sensitive to their cry and their need, and be a friend to them. You know, a friend that sticks closer than a brother kind of grace. So we again want to thank you so much, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and continue to share the link, share the question. It could help someone you never could tell. Don't take it for granted. It can help someone in their lowest of moment. So God bless you, and until we see again next Monday evening, should the Lord tarry, we will be here next Monday evening at 8:30 to answer another question. So God bless you. Pastor Karen Lauren, God bless you.
God
Bye-bye.
bless you all.
Yes, you too.